Hello, everybody, and welcome to the March 26th Trips and Traps. Andy Serling, Richard Migliore.
Well, we've only got two races. I think there's some interesting, subtle things in these races. And I bet you can't wait till turf racing opens because it seems like we have a lot more races to talk about.
Yeah, I agree. Well, not only that, we had a cancellation last week, so we only had the 3 days of racing this week. And we're filming this, obviously, on Thursday, or taping it. We'll only have 3 weeks of racing. Starting next week, on April Fool's Day, we'll have 5-day racing weeks going forward, so we'll have more race to look at. And as you said, turf racing coming up soon. But I'm glad we can talk about a couple of races from Sunday, because Sunday's been, I love these days where there's a lot of conversation, and sometimes it centers around biases. And people have different opinions. And contrary to the people that think these opinions somehow are distracting, I think they're great because they generate conversation about racing. And the truth will lie somewhere in the middle of the opinions, and we're all going to learn something from it.
Well, I like that, what you're saying. We're going to learn something from it. Also, if you have a definitive opinion, then you know which direction you want to go in next time. To me, I thought the track was fairly fair. But if everything's fair, you still want to be the guy saving as much ground as possible.
I think that's a very good point, a very, very good point. I think it was a little speed favoring. And as you say, the track leaning towards the inside. I wanted to be inside. It may have been a slight advantage, but I don't think that we saw an extreme rail advantage, because when you get those extreme rail advantages, I find you get more exaggerated results than we saw overall on Sunday.
Yeah, and I thought there were some very competitive races. Well, there weren't blowouts.
No, I agree, and one of them we'll talk about. And this is one that makes the case that the rail was the place to be, but I think a lot of that has to do with getting your position going forward early, and that was the case with a masterful ride by Jose Ortiz on the 4, Turco Bravo, and perhaps Junior Alvarado, who I think has been a riding star this winter, a little passive out of the gate, and he ends up giving his position up to Turco Bravo, and I think, and you'll agree, it cost him the race.
Well, I absolutely. I think he would have preferred to be in the position that Jose Ortiz winds up in on the eventual winner. He left running, he got to the fence, allowed the horse outside of him, Cousin Steven, to lead him, but now instead of being where
North Slope
Turco Bravo is, North Slope is
outside.
They flip-flop positions.
Right, absolutely. North Slope, the blue, is supposed to be on the inside, and Turco Bravo is supposed to be outside of him. And granted, North Slope gets a little unlucky from here. But the whole discussion centers around something that we talk about a lot, how important the start of the race is. And if you are getting your position going forward, it gives you a chance to dictate how the race is going to be run. Instead, this whole trip gets dictated to North Slope.
Well, yeah, because eventually he's going to have to tip out around Vijay. So instead of being third in that cozy position on the rail, he's going to be chasing 3 to 4 wide around the second turn, and he's only beaten 2.5 lengths for everything. Even just the ground loss is right there.
No, I agree. And if you think the track is tilted a little towards the inside, it's against him. If you think it's a lot towards the inside, he was way against the track. You've got to ask yourself, you think of the track. But I think our feeling is, and I think it was a little more biased than you do, but I'm not going overboard, is even on a fair racetrack, North Slope ends up with a much tougher trip.
Yeah, well, you're chasing 3 wide, having to work so hard to keep the same position as the horse that winds up winning it, the 4 inside of him.
Well, look at the 4 riding. He's barely even riding.
You know, he's basically still saving horse, saving ground, while North Slope's under a drive because he has to work that much harder being outside.
And then everything works out perfectly. Vijay has no horse, so he's able to easily slip out past that one, and he gets the job done. And let's give credit to Gary Contessa and to Turco Bravo, but the end of the day, this was a race that you can point to and say, here's a race that Jose Ortiz won on that horse, where he really deserves as much credit, if not more, than anybody.
Yeah, he wins by half a length. He saved every inch of ground. He sat in the pocket. He did everything right, left with intention to get position. And let's give the runner-up, Cousin Steven, some love with Kendrick Carmouche, who we'll see put horses on the lead and nurse things along. He seems like he has a very strong sense of pace.
No, he absolutely did, and he did everything right with him. But it was the move at the beginning by Jose Ortiz, realizing there wasn't any pace in the race besides Cousin Steven, so I better get position at the start, and was facilitated by other riders being less aggressive.
I agree with that. I also, watching it again now, I wonder if North Slope wasn't just a touch lethargic.
He may have been.
And you have to, you know, it's a balancing act. You can't go all in and set a horse off. Yeah. And at the same time, you don't want to be too complacent and allow him to fall back. But watching that, I almost think he was a little bit flat.
He didn't exactly come out flying. It's not as though he jumped out of the gate and Junior grabbed a hold of him. So it's a reasonable argument. At the end of the day, though, the early position created the late result in this race. And we're going to talk about early position in our next race, the very next race on that card, the fourth race. everything happens because the favorite and likely speed Dickinson stumbles and Junior Alvarado ends up falling off, and he stumbled very badly at the start. Can see him back there. I think Vittani is supposed to grab the bull by the horns here and go to the front. The 3, Cornelia decided to rate the second-place finisher, Rapid Repair, and ended up getting that good inside trip like Turco Bravo had. The biggest victim was the third-place finisher, The Road Not Taken. The eventual winner was the biggest beneficiary of everything. His rider isn't even being that aggressive on the 1 right now. Jose could have had this lead with the 2, Richie.
Well, I think when you're looking over and you're seeing the rider next to you not giving you any inclination he's going to go forward, well, it allows you just to hold your position without having to ask and just slide along in there. And you could see this filly all too many. When she got that comfortable on the lead, how are they going to beat her? It looks like she's in a canter here.
She goes 24-2, 50-2, 116-3. As you say, it is an absolute canter. And at this point, Cornelia's on the 3, and while he got that good position in second, going that slowly, his filly could have, I'm sorry, excuse me, it's Angel Arroyo. It's not Cornelia Velasquez. I apologize. Cornelia was actually on the far outside. There's Angel on the inside. Vittani is the one with sprint speed that should have gone to the lead. I know he's a 14-1 shot, but your only chance to win is probably going to the front end, Richie, and The Road Not Taken is just victimized.
Yeah, well, I agree. And what you say about Vittani is 100% correct, but I think he was probably anticipating, and I'm not saying it's right, I'm just saying what his thought process probably was, Jose Ortiz, that Dickinson was going to show high speed coming out of the 2 sprints, coming out of the stake, and probably didn't catch on early enough that this horse had stumbled and lost the rider, and now the cast is set.
Now, let me play a slight devil's advocate. Doesn't he still want to get ahead of the 1 early and let Dickinson clear off for both of them and be sitting second with that one?
Yeah, I would agree. I would have liked to have seen that because you have no chance on the hard chase now to win, especially with a horse that does have speed.
A sprinter stretching out, it's the worst possible place to be in, so he's out chasing. I'm not saying I want him back, though. I'd like to get him on a turn back. A very, very good trip for Rapid Repair, especially if the rail was good. The horse that you want out of this race, and this is one I know you and I agree on, is The Road Not Taken. Back to last, saved ground the first turn, wide in the second, but a slow pace.
Yeah, and she really never had any position to win, had to come from further back. I thought he did a good job taking up and ducking to the fence to save ground the first turn. I kind of got a kick out of watching Kendrick Carmouche on the eventual one, All Too Many. Before they turn for home, people can go back and look. He reaches up and pulls a pair of goggles down. Now, he's been in front the whole way, Andy, so they're not dirty. I used to do that when I had a lot of horse under me and I needed to do something with my hands.
I think it actually is funny. And, you know, the 8 is actually doing a little bit of running here, all things considered. This horse, The Road Not Taken, maybe 2 turns will be fine. I would love to see this horse at a 1-turn mile at Aqueduct or Belmont, or even a mile and a 16th at Belmont. I think a 1-turn, a fairly run race for Road Not Taken, and she will beat this kind of field.
I agree with that. And with the right trip, she'll do it going 2 turns.
Yes.
I think the post position and the stumbling of Dickinson changed the complexion of the race against her. I think she did the most running and at least should have been second.
It would have been interesting to see what would have happened in this race. Obviously, you'd love an alternate universe where Dickinson breaks and goes to the front. You have a faster pace. You have more separation, how it works out. And maybe Dickinson would have won anyway. But it is interesting. And once again, another great example of a race that is completely changed by what happened at the start.
Yeah, well, anybody who says starts are an unimportant part of the race are just misinformed. And we've heard some, people in high positions say those kind of things. The start sets up how the entire race will be run.
If you were a trip handicapper and you were only able to watch 5 seconds of every race, I would choose the star of the race. I'll look at the chart for the rest and take my chances. The start dictates so much of what happens later, and I know we agree.
Well, so much so, when I was riding, I would go to the replay center, because even if you saw on paper 2 or 3 horses had speed in the race you're in and you were on a speed horse, you watch how horses break. Some horses don't have tremendous gate speed. They have speed, but it takes them 3 or 4 or 5 strides to build into it. If I was on a horse that had gate speed, I would take it away from those guys, not even give them an opportunity to go to the lead and say, no, I'm doing this because I knew I could get the drop bottom out of the gate. The start is a premium.
No, absolutely. Well, once again, trips and traps at NYRAInc.com. Give us your help anytime you can. We'll see you a little bit later.